In my life.
I didn't know you were in the service, my friend. Right on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I served for 7.5
I
years.
know, it's a
All right, we are
lot.
live.
Excellent.
Yeah. So welcome back today, everybody. We have a special live episode, and I don't do a lot of live episodes. And this is also the so let me see. One second. Where am I getting getting some feedback from somewhere? Okay, just take those out. And this is what happens when you go live.
I know, always. It's true.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, this is my new, under the new branding of Transform to Freedom. Today's the guest is Buck Angel. Welcome in.
Right on, my friend. How are you?
I am doing well.
Right on. Thanks for having me on. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, but thanks for having me on. It's really important to have good conversation. Look, I already expect it to be good conversation.
Well, it is going to be a good conversation. There we go.
It is. I already know it.
I mean, we have to. You're right. We have to have these types of conversations because there's a lot going on in our community. And I think especially we get two different perspectives, especially with you, a trans male, and me, a trans female. And you've been in this community for a long time. I have not. I mean, I started transitioning 2.5 years ago, so it's still fairly recent. Yeah, because I got out of the Army in 2017, and then started.
Oh, so you didn't transition when you were in the Army?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Nope. I was so I was married for 5 years. Got out of the Army in 2017, and then just to explore my gender and stuff like that when I moved to Atlanta, and I separated from my ex, and here I am.
Wow. And look at you, my friend. Yeah. It's so amazing. I love, that's the whole point of transitioning.
Exactly.
It's the actual point to actually be happy, to find your space in the world, to create, business, to move forward, have families. Like, I mean, for me, that was the whole reason I transitioned. I'm kind of assuming, making an assumption it was the reason why you transitioned too.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It really was. And I have found that through a lot of the exploration and everything like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't take anxiety medication anymore. I mean, most of that's from the gym and everything like that, but still, it's like there's stuff that clears my head and I just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's right. I know. That's exactly how I feel. There's just I never thought about it. Once I did it, it was straightforward. I've never looked back. I just have been so blessed to live such a great life transitioning. It changed. Again, I'm going to say it. It's the whole point. Anyone should be transitioning to have a better life and to be a happy person and to do it because there's no other option for you. And there was no other option for me. I could not live as a gay woman anymore, and I could not live as a woman. It just was not an option. I think things are different today. I think people, and not to say that I'm right or you're right and they're wrong, but I do there's a different reason people transition today. And I do have a hard time sometimes wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I definitely want to get into that. Now, you were the first person though to really, you're the OG, right? Like you were the very first like trans male to ever go on testosterone, correct?
Well, not forever. No, there's way more before me. What I am in Los Angeles, I was the first here in Los Angeles to get my doctor. I was his first. Oh, I love you. That's so awesome. Right on. So I was the first guy that he worked on FTM. He had worked on M to Fs for 30 something years. So I was the first, and also for my top surgery. But for sure, there's other guys. I actually have friends who are older on testosterone than me.
Oh, okay.
But there's not a lot. There's a lot, but I mean, there's some, but nowhere near what you see today. Nowhere near. It was a very small community.
Yeah. Now, throughout the years, have you seen it what, I mean, obviously you've probably seen like the shifts, and has there been the ups and downs of, like, I guess, have trans men ever really been the ones that were at the forefront, or has it always kind
No.
of been the trans women?
Well, back in the day, we didn't really have a movement. It was pretty much like we transitioned to be men, and we didn't have internet. We didn't have full social media,
Yeah.
which, oh God, we can get into that. But thank God, I think on some level, thank you, universe, for letting me transition without all of this. But we transit. We had a magazine called FTM International, which got us all from all over the world. It was an amazing magazine, and it really helped us all. We were friends with each other. We cared about each other. We were brothers. We never said you're doing it the wrong way or the right way. We helped each other, even if you weren't going to get bottom surgery or you're not. You know, it was a very difficult space to be in. So we became family, and that's what breaks my heart. It's just not that anymore. And so, you know, we transitioned to be men. So we did not transition, and I did not transition to be trans. I transitioned to become a man and to live my life that way. So back in the day, we had sex changes, right? We wanted to become men and live that way. So we were stealth in a lot of ways, because our whole purpose of transitioning was to go back into the world and coexist and live as men. And it's pretty simple, I think.
Yeah, I think that's, even up until not so recently, that's the way it's been for, you know, both. It's like the goal has always been to be stealth, until now we have different factions of trans, and transsexuals are typically, I like to think that we're more on the right-leaning side of stuff, where we're, you know, and so that's part of our issue is we can't get a lot of transsexuals to come out of that stealth safe space, right?
That's right.
They're safe in that area, and they don't need to, because nobody can tell, and they don't have to take the hate from the lefties that you know, a lot of people would, like we do.
That's right. And you know, you and I don't have to do it either, as you know, but we choose to do it because we care about our community. Not to say that those people don't. We're just in a different space to be able to do it. And I appreciate those people and what they need to do. But I will not sit still, and I will not go away, and I will not retire. These kids are like, you need to retire, old trampa. And I'm like, what? I just got started, bitches. Don't even think about telling you. The ageism is sick. It's actually sick. Oh my God. I mean, some of the things these kids say to me, and when I say kids, I mean like 30-year-olds and 20-year-olds, just say so many amazing, mean shit. And I just think to myself, no way, now you blew it. Now I'm not going away. And now I'm going to expose more of this bullshit that's happening, because I care about kids getting caught up and detransitioning and all of that shit. We didn't have detransitioners back in the day. And that says everything to me. And you know, and I'll say it again, they love to call it gatekeeping, which is bullshit. It's safekeeping. And there's a reason why people like myself never look back or feel so part of the world. You know, the whole world loves me. The people who hate me are other trans people.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
That's really what happens. Well, it's not always the trans people, and for lack of a better term, in my the way I've seen it, a lot of times it's the woke cis men that like to come after trans women, especially, that like to speak up, or lesbians, because they come after Ariel quite a bit too.
Yeah, they do.
Like that group likes to go after us.
Totally. Yes.
And so they're white knighting, I guess, is what they would call it, right?
Yeah, you know, or that allyship, or yes, those woke kids who think that they're helping the trans community. And I'm like, you need to sit down and shut up. It's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter. So many white kids standing there, race. I'm like, shut up. Black people are, the whole point of BLM is to give space to Black people. You kids think you're so like, it's shocking to me how overrun things are, the entitlement, the privilege, like that's not activism. Sorry, it's just that's why I don't even call myself an activist anymore. I'm not going to be a part of that.
And I've been called an activist, and it's kind of a dirty word in a lot of ways, but I guess that is what I am in terms of the realness of it. But I mean, that's the whole reason why, you know, I named this stream as Just the Wrong Kind of Trans, because they say, you know, listen to trans people, but not those trans people. They're the wrong kind.
It's so, I mean, really, the fact that we're even having this conversation, and I hope a lot of people see this, because me and you are just saying exactly what we as trans people see in our own community, and how people like me and you are always bashed on by other trans people. And that's what the world needs to see. I'm shocked at the fact that, okay, that they just go after the wrong kind of trans. I call myself the bad tranny because I'm not speaking their language, or I'm not, and I'm thinking to myself, since when in any community did you have to fully think it? I've been in the LGBT community for 30 plus years. And so I have never seen it act the way it acts, and the way trans people act to each other. That's what makes me go, wait a minute, what's happening here? That's why I question what's happening here, because I'm not sure. I think everyone is really understanding what it even means to be a transgender person.
No, you're right. Because the community has, and it's so much more emboldened now, because they have, I mean, we see the corporatization of pride and everything like that. But to your point, like one of the reasons why I still just use the LGBT label, because I think that the LGBT is still a community in the original sense of the T as transsexuals, and then the TQ plus has gone off the rails, and it's kind of this headbutting between each other, because because to them, if you're not pan, basically, then you're transphobic, right?
That one I love too. So they're so mixed up. So, I get nailed all the time. You fetishize trans men with your porn. You shouldn't be doing that. I have been hated on some level in this community since I've been in this newer 20 plus years. When I started my pornography, I got trans dudes coming after me, telling me it's wrong. The whole world's going to think all trans men have pussies. Just insane shit. And now, but fast forward, they're all on OnlyFans, and half of them are doing porn. And I'm like, hey, the hypocrisy that shows and rears its head here is so insane. Or like, if you're not on board with certain language, or transsexual is a slur, or I can't be this person anymore because it's not really trans. I'm just like, how are we letting this rhetoric and this narrative take over? Because we have.
Oh yeah. Oh, we absolutely have. And it's interesting because you're actually the second porn star that I've had on this channel. Excellent. The second trans porn star at that. Wow. I had my friend Taylor Leanne Chandler came on last November.
Yes. Excellent.
And she is a trans activist.
Yes.
But not, and more of a lefty, more of a leftist, but she's not a radical lefty. She is somebody I absolutely adore and have a great conversation with, even though, and actually we found that we actually agree on most of the stuff, and she's, so when she's working at a trans activist organization up in Washington DC, that's what the organizations are typically standing for, and I don't even think that a lot of them appreciate what's going on with the wokeness in the community.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, but the problem is that there's so much power up here somehow, I hate even saying it, but somehow that it has everyone by the fucking balls on some level. And it's just like, if you even make the wrong move, we're going to rip you out of your job. We're going to make sure you never get a job. We're going to make sure, I'm like, how are we even, like, so what that this other trans person has a different idea and now you can't, so you're going to lose your job. I mean, they've been canceling me for 20 years. They've been canceling me out. And I just think it's sick that anyone would come after my livelihood when I have a family, I have a kid, and they don't care. They come after my livelihood. And I thought, wow, you're not really thinking and looking at the big picture. Trans people already have a hard enough time in the world that you all keep saying that you're also victimized, yet you turn around and victimize other, and totally tear apart other trans people, making them lose their job, their everything. I think in itself, in its own cocoon, if you look at it, it's really actually sick. And they don't even see that. They just want to shut you up. So they're willing to take you out without any understanding of how that's going to hurt the future of trans people.
Yeah, they don't. And what they really don't see is somebody like you who has been so active in the community, and you have been such a mentor to so many of these young people as well. So when you see people that are coming to you and parents and stuff that are coming to you, do you see it differently? Do you see more male to females, females to male, or is it generally across the board?
FTM, female to male. I most definitely, most of the parents, and I talk to a lot of parents, and I even deal with a couple kids here in LA, mostly FTM. So that being, the ROGD thing, which is everyone loses their mind when you say ROGD now. It's like the dirty word of the trans community, but it's real. Whether people want to deal with it or not, I don't fucking care. It is actually real. They did studies on it. It is there. I don't know why. And here's the other thing to me. And it's dangerous behavior. I give a shit about the kids in this community, and I give a shit about the future of this community, or I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, me and you would not be here. We would not take the abuse we take just to be here. We do it for a reason. And those kids behind me are going to be me later on. And I need for them to see me, and I need for them to see me stand up to the rhetoric and the bullshit. I don't even, like I said, so that being said, I think that parents are worried. They have every right to be, because there's not enough information out there for them. There's only do it, right? There's only your kid says they're trans, which is total bullshit. And there's no pushing back, and there's no, well, wait a minute here. Let's give you a little bumper, right? Let's give you a little space here, which is what I believe in. I said, just treat your kid like a dude. That's all. That's what my parents did. Treat him like little Tommy. Let him wear boy clothes. Let him fucking play baseball. Let him do his dude thing. What's the big deal? And that's the way, to me. I always say it, that social transition. You don't need to medicalize a child. That's sick.
Yeah. Social transition. And we were both in Ariel's latest video too on the Packer, right? But that is, and it's absolutely what it is. Like, social transition should be normalized. Absolutely. Let your child explore. Now, where are you at though when it comes to like puberty blockers and when to transition?
So puberty blockers, I will say I don't believe that they are. Now, I believe that they could probably be, let's say, 1 in 200,000. I believe there are some kids that it could actually help 100%. I do think that. And in fact, I know a kid here in LA, and I've watched him on them, and I've watched his parents be so great with it. And he is great, and he's functioning. And I think he's like 12 or 13 now, and he started, I think, when he was 8. But I see a positivity that it worked for him, right? But I don't think, but they went through a system. They didn't just give him hormones. They just went through a whole system of therapy, of all this, and then finally they decided to do it. It was tough for them. They still think that they might have made the wrong choice. But that being said, I do not think that they are good for kids. I think that there are definitely things that we don't talk about. There's no irreversible damage. That's bullshit. There's 100% some damage that is happening when you block puberty. Come on, people. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking scientist to figure that out. Puberty is there's a reason you have puberty. The reason every fucking human has puberty. So I don't believe in hormone blockers, except for probably a very rare case of it. And I tend to, I mean, I you can watch the documentary. I always bring this up, Transhood on HBO. Oh, right. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah. So there are two, there's a FTM and a MTF that on there, that both of them, you can see them and be like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't imagine them not being on this. They absolutely seem like they would. And I'm almost sometimes, I guess, a little bit biased when it comes to this too, because and I think it's more detrimental to go through male puberty for a FTM or MTF, because testosterone is such a powerful drug, right? So it's the passability factor once you get through puberty is a lot less. True. I'm fortunate. That's exactly right. Blair White's fortunate. There's a lot of us that are fortunate, but then you also have the people like the It's Ma'am lady and other people out there that you can't reverse this stuff. No, you can't. So you're right. That's something we should most definitely understand. And I have no issues if we start to do studies. And I have no
Mhm.
issues if we have full on hardcore evidence. There's no evidence. So we're using children right now as guinea pigs. I
Yeah,
was a guinea pig.
exactly.
Thank God it worked out for
Yep.
me. But we're not going to know half. You don't think half these kids are going to. And also, look, man, let's be real here. You don't think these kids are going to be 20 years old and go, possibly this was a wrong choice for me that my parents made for me, because the parents are making those choices because they have to.
Yeah.
And that, so if you don't think some kid is going to go, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't the right choice for me, and now they're going to be pissed at their parents and pissed at the medical, and maybe it just becomes something that they should have never
they should
been.
be.
Yeah,
That's
right.
They should be, and they should be pissed at the medical, because I said the only way that this works, I've said this plenty of times, the only way that this actually works is if we have therapists that are actually doing the hard jobs. But nowadays, and I've had a few run-ins with these activist therapists on Twitter, and it's like insane. Like they're saying, like they're calling me names and stuff. I'm like, you're a therapist for kids? Oh my God. And they have they, them in their bios and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
like,
bullshit.
Oh my gosh, it's
bullshit. No, I just spoke to a therapist who I'm working with. I'm actually working on this whole great thing with this therapist. But that being said, we had the same conversation. He said, I'm scared. That's why I need to bring you in, Buck, because I'm scared for the future of therapy. The gender affirming therapy is bullshit. There's getting no pushback. My therapist, I had 10 years of therapy. Again, not to say what I did was right and what you do is wrong, but I'm just telling you, I had 10 years of therapy. My therapist pushed on me, constantly pushed on me, until finally we figured it out for me. But if you're not pushing back a little bit to make them think, but you're just handing them what they want, how is that helping anybody? That's not helping anybody.
That's not therapy in and of itself. Therapy is supposed to be hard.
That's right.
And if you have and if you have a therapist that is actually giving you their opinion, and these people that have they, them in their bios and stuff like that, that they're giving their opinions and stuff like that.
Yes.
And the thing about a therapist is they are there to help you work through any issues that you can have. I was asked to help mentor a young man last year who was having a hard time. And I said, absolutely. And one of his first questions to me was, do you think I might be trans? Because he was a very gender nonconforming. And I just basically asked the first question, do you want to transition to be a woman? He said, no, I kind of like who I am and everything like that. I'm like, no, then you're just gender nonconforming, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's like, oh my God, it's been around forever. When I was a youngster, there was gender nonconforming. It's been around forever. It's not a new thing. It's something that's always been in our community and something that we should welcome. And it's, to me, a lot of times the non-binary space feels like a holding pattern on some level for people to think about which way they want to go, which is beautiful and amazing. And I think that's very safe to me, because people shouldn't, I don't think anyone should just jump into medical transition. You got to take your time. I tell the kids all the time, I know you want your top surgery. I know you want it tomorrow, but you know what? Everything in time. When you slow down and you think about things, everything turns out. But when you rush it, there's mistakes that get made. And these are big mistakes that you could make, cutting off your breasts or having a hysterectomy, or you'll never have kids. And, all the things, it's not an instant gratification. It just doesn't work that way. It's a slow process.
And I used to venture into the Reddit boards a little bit too. And that's just a cesspool of this stuff.
Not do it.
Because it's I mean, you talk about having kids and making these choices and stuff like that. And kids are saying, my parents won't let me do this because they think that I might want to have kids in the future. And they're not thinking that they're like, I don't want to have kids ever. And I'm like, you're 14, 15, 16 years old. Of course you don't know that. And honestly, if they are telling you that, at least try to get some sperm stored.
Yeah, that's right.
Before you, before you decide to transition.
Yep, that's right.
Then that is actually helping you, and at least get enough development to where you can get that, at least have something where you can actually have kids later on if you make that choice. I mean, that was the first thing I did before I started transitioning.
So smart, just smart, thinking about those things in the future. You know, for for trans guys, excuse me, we can actually carry a child. So it's a little bit different if we choose not to have a hysterectomy, which is, you know, which is a great thing. And I know I have some friends who have had babies. That's not my space. I don't necessarily want to go there, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible, and it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's great. But I think one of the issues for me also is the way that we as this trans community tends to want to run over everything and totally, you know, co-opt every space, as opposed to, you know, I'm big on coexisting, and I'm big on trying to just get back into the world as a person and not necessarily run over everybody's rights, or trans people have more rights than everybody else. I mean, it's so insane. It's going to backlash so hard on us, you know, so hard. It's not even funny. I mean, I watch you know, I follow a lot of people on the other side who do not like us, and they are going to come after us. And because we what they are doing is pushing so hard and taking away. So I always say to the trans community, you have to put yourself in the other space. How would you feel if people were doing that to you right now and said, no, trans people can't do this, or trans people can't do that? Well, we've always been that way. I said, actually, you're wrong. I've worked hard to get into the world, and people are accepting of me, and I walk the world in a beautiful space. And so you're totally wrong. The world has been accepting of people like us. You've made it worse. In the last 5 years, I've seen so much more hate towards trans people than I ever have.
Yeah. Well, there are Twitter accounts which are dedicated to fighting the trans narrative. Like, and we are actually starting to see the shift in the gender critical crowd to where they're pushing away people like me, you, Mars, and everybody else. Like, I am seeing it so much. They're like, no, like it's getting bad.
I know it's bad.
So it's
and
like we're stuck.
Yeah, because I'm like, I am a biological female. I have no issue saying that at all. It's the whole, it's all my story. And no, you're not. Biology is, and I'm like, wow, the minute you start touching on biology as it real, you're screwed. That's what screwed us right there. You can't mess with that. That's right.
No, and that's what we get from the left. And then on the right, they want to call you a woman.
That's right.
They want to call you a woman. They want to call me a man, and that's the biggest thing. I said, no, I am biologically a male. Yeah, I go, I'm biologically a male, but I'm not a man. I'm a trans woman. I'm not a woman. There's a difference between all of this.
That's right. That's right. And that's the important part. It's just a descriptor. It's a descriptor. And I don't understand why we can't have these descriptors. There's Asian women, Black women, right? There's trans women. There's all kinds of different kinds of women. You just happen to be a trans woman. And so, you know, this idea that we have to take over women's spaces. I was born a woman, and I did live half my life as a woman. And I completely understand a lot of the things that these women are talking about. I dealt with it as a woman. So I have a lot of compassion for that space. And it doesn't make me trans misogynist, whatever they want to call me, or a transphobic, or a TERF, or any of that shit. So no, I'm none of that shit.
It's like, how can you be a TERF? I'm always like, I've been called a TERF so many times. Like, how can you be a TERF and a trans person?
I know.
I got called something new recently, though. I got called homophobic recently. I'm like, I'm bisexual.
Wow.
And it was because I dared to say that I think that we should have full LGBT wings in prisons. And they say, well, what would that solve? And I'm like, well, here's the thing is, gay men are at just as much of a risk as trans women in men's prisons. So they deserve kind of that same protection. And then I just asked a question. I asked Ariel this question, and she didn't even know either. Like, I would just try to form an opinion, because we know that the domestic violence rates in the LGBT community are higher as well. So if you're talking about lesbian women, should we separate lesbian women from straight women as well? I just asked the question, and I got called homophobic for it.
You know, that's the internet. Don't even take that shit. You know, everyone wants to be offended. It's an actual real thing. People live to be offended. You can see it on Twitter. I could say anything. I could say, hi, have a beautiful, lovely day. Oh, fuck you. I'm like, what? I literally said, have a nice day, because everyone needs to be offended now. Everyone has an opinion, and that's all you ever have to realize. It's all fake. It's all this. We've literally opened up a can of worms. I have given people the space to just, it's weird. It's an actual weird human experiment as far as I'm concerned. You give people this little thing, this phone or this computer that has this application on it, and then people can say whatever they want. And I mean, I don't think they even knew what they were creating when they created that.
No, the internet has been a net negative to this society.
That's right. That's right. It literally is a cesspool of people just vomiting on each other. It's crazy. It
now,
really is.
Let's get into a little bit. So, and you're gonna love this person's name, Megan Ogre.
Oh,
she's been attacking you for a while, right? Who is this person?
I don't even know her. I've never met her. I don't know her. All I know is about her. So what I know is she came after my buddy, Aaron, who's a beautiful, amazing human being and does a lot of work for this community, has been doing a lot of work for this community, and came after him and made him, like, I think he might have even lost his job. See what I mean? Earlier, we're talking about cancel, because she didn't like who he was working with, and she didn't like, so she became the guardian of the trans community. Who is this lady? And so, she can go, so she came after me and said, oh, so after we released that letter that we all signed and put out there, and everyone had a shit attack about it, which is ridiculous because they didn't read it. They just saw it and just attacked it, which is what, and so for me, it's great because you can see how they don't read stuff. They just attack you if it's going off the narrative. So that's why it's so great that they attacked us, because they just blew it. The whole world is reading that letter now. They could have slid it under the rug.
I was going to say, so that, that's why they say no publicity is bad publicity, right?
That's right.
Even if it is bad.
I'm big on that.
So I heard about this letter just recently, and I'm like, wait, what letter is this? So I went and I followed a link somewhere. I think it was Mars's link, and it and the videos that they're making about it are talking about like AGP and stuff.
AGP,
but what I read, the video had nothing to do with it.
Nothing. So basically what we're just saying, we're tired of being overspoken. We're tired of not talking about certain types of dysphoria, AGP being one, HSTS, ROGD. Everyone lost their shit on that. I said, there are fucking layers of dysphoria. There's probably more than those. There's so much dysphoria out there. It is a disservice to our community to just say dysphoria, and it's a disservice to our community to self-ID, and it's a disservice to not understand how important mental health care is. So we're pushing back because we keep getting shut down. So anyway, that lady, M.O., I'll call her, she just came after him, like balls to the wall, like, I'm going to nail you. That's her M.O. She wants to nail people. So then she came after me, and then I've never spoken to her, never want anything to do with her. And she's like, well, Buck, we can have a conversation about this. And I'm like, first off, leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you. And I put it publicly out there. I said, if you continue to harass me, I will report you. I don't want to ever speak to you. You're not a person who cares to have a conversation. And so I have nothing to say to you. And then that pissed her off. Because I will not speak to her. She does not get, my time is valuable. People who I care about or are going to have a conversation with me get my time. But somebody like her, no way. She does not get my time. She's evil. She's evil. She's the kind of cancel person that I just talked. So she's willing to let a trans guy lose his livelihood and his job because she, not the community, she didn't like what he was doing. So I know bullshit. This kind of bullshit is not going to slide with me.
No,
not cool.
No, and that's interesting. Like I said, that's it, and it's like these people, they just, I mean, the whole cancel culture on the left in and of itself is disgusting right now, is what we see. Because even not even just in the trans community, we saw the drag queen Lady Maga lose her job lose his job. Job at Delta. He spoke out about that and everything too.
That's right. I mean, it's ridiculous. How are we even letting that happen?
We're thinking different.
And also, don't slide AGP as if it's not this thing and no one wants. Some trans women actually say they have it. So if they're actually saying they have it, that means it's a thing, and stop shaming people for their own identity choice or their own space. And that's what I see in this community. If these certain people, we've disproven it. No, you have not. You have not. There's an actual study about it. Now, maybe you, and they're saying we debunked it, and debunked is not even a real thing. So try again, people. And then Dr. Blanchard is willing to have the conversation. And I have an actual video clip of him where he says, I never called it a fetish. That was some people in the trans community who did that. He never did that study to call it a fetish. He's doing a service to us. And also, let me just tell you, on the flip side, as a trans guy, I want to know the flip side of AGP for trans men. But if we put AGP off the table, then we don't have to then I get left out of the equation again. This isn't a trans woman community. This is a trans community, and trans men count just like trans women, but our voices are continually stepped over by certain trans women who think that they get to be the voice of this community. And so we're fighting back, and they don't like it. They don't like it. They do not like it.
And just for the audience, AGP stands for autogynephilia, which essentially means, and this is where a lot of trans people even get this wrong, what's the even definition of it is. And I think one of the biggest things that Blanchard did wrong was naming it aphilia, and so it gets tied to something like pedophilia or something like that.
Yep, you're right.
But it's basically the notion that you fantasize about yourself as a woman. And so you're attracted to yourself as a woman, and that's basically it. And there are, I've been pretty open about this too. When I was probably in middle school, and actually until I separated from my ex-wife, I thought I was just AGP. I thought I was I was just a cross-dresser that that's what I kind of had this thing, and it was okay. But the difference though was too, is every time, because I only liked women when I was a guy, but I only ever fantasized about myself with men as a woman.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what this means. Is this just mean I like to dress up and have sex with dudes? I don't know.
Maybe. Who cares?
So when I started to explore it, and now, like I said, now I'm completely just bisexual, because now I've transitioned to be a woman. So I see myself with women with women or men in this sense. And so I don't know if that's AGP or not. I don't really care. I just know who I am.
And that's right. But my point being is that you're not pushing away from it. You're not saying, oh, AGP, no. I can't, like I can't. But why? Why are some trans women so offended by it? Why are they so weird? If you're not AGP, then it doesn't matter. Just move over here. But give the women who actually feel as AGP a space in our community to say, I'm AGP. I want to talk about it. Yeah. But instead, they're silencing them for their own needs. It's not about the community. It's about those women being scared that other people are going to think they're AGP. So my point being is, on some level, then I could be, if on the flip side of that, I used to fantasize about being a gay man. I used to jack off about being a gay, and I just wanted to be a gay man and have sex with men. And I only ever slept with women prior to my transition. So I want studies on that. There's so many trans men like me. So many of us have the same problems. So
but like you said, they are so willing just to push all that away. And it's interesting. I think part of the reason, because we talk about the pendulum swinging in terms of, one side pushing harder than the other. And I think before, and even still now, a lot of people in the gender critical movement want to say it's just a fetish, and use AGP to say that trans people aren't real. So that's why I think a lot of trans people try to push away from it. So it is a cause and effect issue there.
Mm-hmm. That's true. No, 100%. But people said that shit about homosexuality years ago. I mean, come on, man. I come from the AIDS movement. Let me tell you how we had to deal with bullshit back in the day. No,
you're absolutely right.
And look at us today. So that being said, of course, people are going to always hate. There are always going to be people who hate us. I don't care how much you're going to think you're going to overrun the world. They're always going to hate us. That's okay. It doesn't matter. You just have to turn the other way and walk the other way. I care about this community. I don't give a shit what those people say about us. I care about you, and I care about me. So for me and you to care about each other, we want studies. We want to find out, why do we feel this way? We want to find out, why do some people do this? Why do some people do that? That's caring about us. And that's putting us on our own space and not worrying about what the rest of the world thinks about us. And that's how I've
Absolutely.
always been. I would not be the guy I am today. I would not be the successful person I am in my businesses, in my life, everything, if I gave a shit what people thought about me. I've been getting kicked in my balls forever. Forever. So,
and it's interesting. And I think a lot of times we see people like that come after us a lot more because, and I can liken it to, I've always been a conservative on the right-hand side. I never left the left, but people that do leave the left get so much more hate from them for that because it's very much like, we are going to punish you for leaving so that nobody else leaves. Where those people, they were always wrong, but you left us, you betray us. And so we're going to try to make sure nobody else leaves us. So we're going to attack you more than anything.
Wow.
It's a Saul Alinsky tactic. I mean,
it's right. No, you're totally right.
Yeah.
That's right. And in all of this manipulation that they do in the community, right? The gaslighting, the manipulation, the ousting people and canceling them. It's all making people fearful to speak up, which was brilliant. If you step outside of it and think about it in that behavior, it's brilliant marketing. And it's a brilliant way to get people to shut up and to make leaders of our community. So who are these people who have become so controlling and have had but they've been working on it for years. People don't understand this has been going on for 10 years. Their ultimate goal was to get here. It took years and years to build this sort of resistance.
It took to get it out, and I think their biggest mistake though was to get it out was when they got it out into the public. They it was in 2015, gay marriage was passed. So activists didn't have anything else to fight for on the LGBT community. So what happened next, right after that, is Charlotte, North Carolina passed the first bathroom bill that forced companies to let people use the gender the bathroom that identified, of the gender that they identified as, which then caused North Carolina state to completely ban it in general for everybody. So it was just this complete backlash, and that's what basically sparked this trans revolution that we see that's going on today.
That's right. That's so, I'm all for trans rights. Don't think I'm not, but I'm also not for pushing on the rest of the world so they hate us. What's wrong with a gender neutral bathroom in every fucking space in the world? There should just be and I travel a lot. I go around the world all over the place. And most time in Europe, there is no male and female bathroom. It's just a toilet. It says toilet. It doesn't even have a picture of a man or a lady. It just says toilet. So I'm like, it's in America where it's so bizarre here. Everything is so structured in this way. And so on some level, that system needs to be a little bit broken up because it is a little bit too strict, I think, on some level. I think some people want to start experiencing different spaces, but I think it's fine. So I live my life as a man, and that's how I'm not a trans man. I live my life as a man, and so I get that. I love it. I love being a man. I love being in that binary space. I love all of that, but I understand there are other people who are not in that space. It doesn't mean that they get to be the leaders of this community. It doesn't mean that their voices matter more than our voices. And it doesn't mean that we need to have some space in the world where we could all coexist. And that's why the bathroom thing is, to me, a bullshit argument. It should be over. That's right. It should be over. And I can't believe here.
And honestly, I don't see it very many people in the US really arguing about it that much. I see it. The UK has a much bigger divide, I think, than we have over here.
I think you're right. They have gone bonkers over there. They're losing.
But they don't, and this is why I don't think they look at rights and freedoms as much the same way as we do over here, because I just had an article published in the Libertarian Republic about 3 weeks ago, maybe, about rights in general. And it focused a little bit on the bathroom issue. And I said, where I don't believe, and I've gotten in trouble for this, is saying, I don't believe in sex-based rights, and I don't believe in trans rights. I believe in human rights. And if one person's rights step on another person's rights, then it's not an actual right. So the people whose rights are being violated in terms of the bathroom issues are business owners. A business should have any right to choose what happens in their building. If they say that I can't use the women's restroom, I'm going to vote with my dollars and just not go there. The market will take care of itself.
That's right.
I think that's the way, I think any company should be able to do that in and of itself. And but you try to say, I mean, I've been blocked so many times by GC people that just want to say, you don't believe in sex-based rights? No, I don't. I don't, because I have a different view on rights. And then they want to bring in abortion. Then it talks about abortion. Then we start talking about that stuff. So
yeah, then they start bringing all that stuff in. Totally. You know, I would say on some level, I do believe in sex-based rights, but for women. And I think it's because I lived in that space. And every day, look at Afghanistan. I mean, just every day I see how women are just mistreated on such a level and then I can't turn my man eyes away from it now. I can't, especially because I lived it. I got, so much bullshit for being, especially a butch woman. Yeah. And I do know how delicate women's spaces are. And I know how it can be upsetting when a man comes in a woman's space, not calling trans women men, but just saying that, it can disrupt the flow in this space. And so for me, I understand their argument on some level. And I understand, if you haven't been socialized or actually lived in that space for a long time, you can't have that conversation. I don't care if you call yourself a trans woman and that you feel like a woman. It's like, I don't know what it feels like to be a biological man. I have no idea what that means. I just know what my own definition, but I would never go to a man and say, I'm a man too. I just like, I'm a different kind of man. And so, I want to coexist with you. And that's why men like me. Bio dudes love me. Bio straight dudes love me.
I find the same thing. Go to the gym, everything like that. You just be respectful.
That's right.
And I have women going, no, come on. I'm like, okay.
Excellent.
Excellent. But that's why I have such an issue with like what happened at like the Wii Spa and stuff like that too. Is it's like I like, if you are afforded to go, if they afford you that ability to go into that space,
that's right.
You have to be respectful.
Thank you.
I don't know any trans person any trans woman that feels comfortable showing that part of their body.
Me neither. That's why it's weird to me. I have tons of trans women friends. They would never do that. They are not comfortable with their penis. They do not want to show it. That on the flip side, I think more trans men are comfortable with their vaginas, but trans women are not. Yeah. So when I that whole thing was weird to me. Like I'm like, why would a trans woman go into a locker room like that and make a scene? It's so bizarre to me that they're doing that and expecting nobody to say anything. It's something's weird about that whole thing that I felt like, what's the story there and why is that happening? And there was something completely off about that. There was.
Now Desiree in the chat is absolutely right. She said it's possible to have gender dysphoria and not be trans, and I think that's what were, and that's something I actually learned recently. Just listening and talking to the one of our detransition friends, Watson. I am Watson on Twitter. And she talked about this too, where she transitioned and then detransitioned, but she still has dysphoria, but transitioning wasn't the right step. And I think that's key, right?
Oh my God, that's key to why we need mental health care. If you had a therapist who wasn't pushed into this narrative, because you have to affirm trans kids now. If she had a therapist that said, "Oh, wait a minute here, let's take our time with this. Why don't you dress like a boy for a week and see how you feel? Or why don't you change your name and act this way?" There's so many steps they could have done to make sure that she didn't go into that medicalized space, but they didn't. And so that's why detransitioners are golden for our community. And that's why I don't understand why we are pushing back on them. They're gold for us. The ones that are willing to speak up and talk about it will help us in the future of our community. And so the reason they push back, as far as I'm concerned, is because they know the bullshit that's going on in this community and they don't want it to get out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. They know that because they ruin their narrative that people don't do this. And
that's right.
And I was talking about Reddit earlier. I've been banned from 2 trans Reddit groups for simply saying that trans trenders are real.
That's right.
And when they eventually detransition, it's going to hurt actual trans people. They didn't like that. They said then they were never trans, and it just shuts.
They hate it.
And then they blocked me.
Yeah, they won't have the conversation. They won't have they'll block you and they'll be like, you're a fucking transphobe. But why won't you have the conversation?
Yeah.
I get it. The transgender word hurts people's feelings. Okay, well, let's make a new word for you. How about people who probably should have never transitioned? So why don't we talk about that? But they won't even have the conversation with you. They just shut that shit down so fast. They're fearful. They're very fearful of it getting out. That's why they shut it down. Yep.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking rapid onset gender dysphoria, because you mentioned it earlier, are you seeing that people are using it to say that like that's what the left is seeing it more, or that it's an actual study? Because what I'm seeing with rapid onset gender dysphoria is it's not actually real, and it's a lot of these trenders that are saying, oh, I have rapid onset gender dysphoria. It's not real. It's something.
Well, that's
because
yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's my man. That's my man. That's my manness. I'm like, I'm the man here.
No, go ahead.
Right. I totally, that's what I'm saying. So on some level, I believe that it's just a study to show what's happening here and why are all these kids, especially when I say kids, young people, all of a sudden out of nowhere having this idea that they're trans. And so the study really shows, it actually shows that there's been this huge upswing in a very specific group of girls, a certain age, and out of nowhere doing that. So I don't necessarily think it's an actual dysphoria, but I might be wrong. I don't know. I haven't done enough. There's not enough information. I'm trying to find more, but I do think it's a real phenomenon. I 100% do think that, because I've been around this community for a long time and it's never been like that. There's always been more trans women than trans men. And now out of nowhere, bam. But I just read, I think, something the other day where it said ROGD is now they're seeing it happening for trans women, for young boys. I see,
which is interesting.
That's right.
Because I think some of that, and just theorizing, I think a lot of it has to do with just a misogynistic society, because men are discouraged from being feminine.
That's right.
Which I think is another reason why I think that they think that trans women have to be protected more.
That's right.
And I think because to males, it makes sense to want to be a male. So for somebody to transition to be a male, it just makes more sense. And so I think there's also a little bit of the Oedipus complex still in there.
Sure, definitely. It's a difficult thing because it's so new. And then we have to really consider social media, and we really have to consider how youngsters are, this is their whole life. I have a 9-year-old. I know a lot about what goes on in the world with kids and social media and games and all of that stuff. And I do think it does influence on some level, influences him in certain spaces. So, so is social media part of the influence in the ROGD? It could possibly be, again, a lot of times they equate it to sort of like when I was a kid, right? I was a punk rocker because I wanted to belong to a group of people that were like the new cool sort of people. So on some level, can it be they're seeing all the attention the trans kids are getting and they want to be a part of that? I mean, these are just questions. I'm not saying that that's actually
and I've always, it does, and it looks like the same as when I was a kid. And I know Blair has said this before too. It reminds us of the goth kids when I was in school. I grew up in the 90s. So it's like the goth kids that they don't want to be conformative to societal norms, so that they just want to, so they go and they be different in their own conformity.
That's right. So that's why trans now is an identification. See, it was not that for me. It was never an identification. For me, it was an actual medical necessity to save my life and to become a man. So it's a very binary space, transsexual.
Yes.
Right? It's not, has nothing to do with that.
There's two words that I absolutely hate, and identify as one. And I can't think of the other one, but there's two of them that is just identify makes it seem like we choose this, and
that's
we absolutely don't.
That's right. And that's where the danger comes in, right? Because the danger comes in. See, I see the transsexual kids out there. It's the reason I'm here. There are a bunch of kids like me, a bunch. And if they only see those kids who are just identifying and changing their hair color and doing all the things and being this certain type of way, but they don't relate to that, they're going to have a problem understanding who they are. But if they see you and I, then they're going to be like, oh, that's what I am. And that gives them a space to say, well, wait a minute, that's not me. So, but the trans community gets butthurt. They get so butthurt over this idea that transsexual is different than transgender. And that says something. Right. That says something to me. That says, wait a minute here. That means you really don't care. That means you want us all to be monolithic, which is bullshit. We've never been monolithic. We've always been different. We've always just been however we needed to be and found our space. And that's scary. That becomes cultish to me. And that becomes like more of a sort of religion on some level.
I think the old acronyms or the old subsets of transsexual, transvestite, and crossdresser is a much better representation of the community.
Me too.
And it's like, you're right. I don't identify as a woman. I'm a trans woman. That's exactly how I say it. And the same thing, the other word that I was thinking of was lifestyle. In terms of the LGBT community, when somebody says, I may not agree with your lifestyle. Well, it's not a lifestyle. It's my life.
That's like, who created that stupid word lifestyle? That's like, I don't know. Lifestyle is when you're a surfer on the beach. And that's your lifestyle.
I see people use it and they mean well. So I just kind of, and usually they're the people that I can say, the only thing I would not use is the word lifestyle, especially when you're talking about anybody in the LGBT community.
That's right.
It's not a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle to be gay. It's who you are attracted to.
That's why when they say if you're not attracted to a trans person, you're transphobic. And I'm just like, wait a minute here. This is getting out of control. The same people who told me that I was fetishizing trans men, but then turn around and say, you won't date us. You're trans. I'm like, can you guys make up your mind? Either people are fetishizing us or they won't date us. Which one is the place that you're going?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, come on.
That's part of and when I look at that, I go, wait a second. I'm bisexual and I would not date a pre-op trans person.
Yeah, and you have every right to. It's not.
I would date a post-op, but not pre-op.
Right. That's right. Yep. So and that means nothing. But of course they'll kill you for that. They'll be like, you're transphobic. It's like, you cannot force somebody to change their sexuality. Are you insane? No. Like, what are you people talking about? And trans, it's not homophobic. I mean, the whole thing is so insane. They're play on words, how, transgender is homophobic and like all kinds of nonsense. I'm like, you people are pushing so hard. You are pushing. The trans community is this big compared to the rest of the world, and they will slaughter us. Yeah. They will kill us
because they push back so hard on people like you and me.
Yeah.
It makes you know we're doing stuff right. When they get so much attention and they go after people like Abigail and Dr. So,
that's right,
and stuff like that. And honestly, I read End of Gender. I read both of those books, and
thank you. Thank you.
Abigail's book talks all about the rapid onset gender dysphoria
she
stuff.
Sure does.
But I'll tell you, End of Gender, Dr. So's book, it's one of the most trans positive books I've ever read.
And she's the most beautiful human. I'm really great friends with her. I love that lady. She cares about us. She does not care about us. She gives a fuck about us.
She says multiple times in the book, this is not to be used against trans people.
That's right.
She said, because this is just what we have to look at. She said, this is not to be used by transphobic people to attack trans people, to say that they don't exist, because I absolutely have a lot of friends, and that's what she says. She has a lot of friends that are trans people, and she's a former liberal. I don't
It's so ridiculous.
She's
same with
Abigail. To step out.
Abigail's my friend. Abigail wrote that book because she was asked to write that book. She had no clue she was going to get so nailed, and she cares about us. I spent a lot of, she lives in the same city as me. I spent a lot of time with Abigail. She's the sweetest, amazing lady who gives a shit. She wrote that book because she gives a shit about kids. And she wants to have the conversation, which she's entitled to. But the thing that really freaked me out is when they went after her and got her book banned. I'm like, wait a minute here. That's way overboard. When you start banning books, what's next is some scary ass shit gonna come. And I started Googling shit and I'm like, well, wait a minute, they carry Mein Kampf, they carry fucking Hitler's book, but they're not going to carry Abigail's book. So I'm writing Amazon like, wait a minute here. You can't carry this book and not carry this book. They're not even the same. But the fact is you chose to carry this book, which is so insane, and not this book because a bunch of trans people got butthurt over it. Like, what is the...
And that's actually where they're missing the point, is because nobody is actually reading these books.
That's right.
Because you can go on YouTube right now and say, and one of these people will say, I read this book, so you don't have to. So nobody's reading it, and they're just getting these pieces. And I see that the same thing is I see people say this about a video, and I'm like, so you didn't watch the video because it says nothing.
That's right.
It's just like the letter.
Just like the letter.
They're not reading this stuff.
No one read it.
They're not. They just think they have to get rid of it, which is really going to be their downfall in the end, because they don't understand where we're coming from with a lot of stuff, and they don't understand what we're actually presenting to society when we're talking to other people, right?
That's right.
That's right. I mean, I own a copy of the Communist Manifesto. I own a copy of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radical for a reason. I like to know what their playbook is.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's why I love you. You got to look at that enemy. You got to watch Fox News. You got to watch all the things where people hate us. You know what? If you don't watch, if you don't watch that, you're in the military. You get it. I love The Art of War. I listen to it all the time. I mean, there's ways to do things and listen, and then but you can't just cut off to someone's nose to spite their face. It doesn't work that way, and you will totally fuck yourself up. So me and you are just gonna sit back. They're gonna fuck shit up so bad. It's scary, but they think they're smarter than that, and they're not. They're actually really destroying us.
Yep, and they definitely haven't read Fahrenheit 9/11 either.
Oh my God.
Fahrenheit 451, that's what it is.
That's right.
Because that's all about the burning of the books. Now I have a physical copy of both of those books in case they get taken off of audio programs.
God, don't say
but that's it. Why? That's why I got the physical copies, because you're right.
Me.
But it just shows that when they are so dead set on hiding something,
that's right.
It means that it's dangerous. It means that it did something right, because otherwise they would want everybody to read it if it wasn't credible.
That's right. That's what I say. I go, why don't you give people an opportunity to read the book and make their own choice? And then people are what you said. I read it. You don't have to read it. And these are people in our community have, huge followings. And I'm thinking that is irresponsible right there. You should tell every single person to read that book. You don't have to buy it and support it. You can find everyone, make a copy of it and give it to each other. But read that book. Don't make assumption because your buddy over here told you that, oh, it's so transphobic. I mean, we're teaching these young kids to be followers. We're not teaching them to be leaders, and we're not teaching them to be individuals, which I am and you are. We're individuals. We happen to be trans and part of the community, but we are not the same. We're individual people who have individual lives and individual likes and dislikes, but we have one thing in common. One thing. It doesn't mean anything other than that one thing we have in common.
Absolutely. It doesn't. And that's what's beautiful about and a lot of us that are even on this side of the community now, we're coming together. We're starting to get as organized as they are, right? You asked me before this to join the Gender Dysphoria Alliance, which I happily did.
I love you so much, man. Oh God, it's so good. We're getting so many people are really coming to it, all kinds of people. We are really getting out there and talking about how we really want to just make a healthy community. We're tired of seeing the rhetoric, the toxicity, the insanity, the way people don't like us anymore. We're tired of it. I don't want to live in that world. I want my son to come up. My son knows I'm trans, whatever that means to him, right? He just knows because he always hears me yelling on the internet, God damn trans. He's like, what's fuck yelling at now? Like trans people. And so like, I don't want him to grow up to think trans people are bad or mean or ugly, or you know what I mean? I want him to have a beautiful understanding of who we are and what we are and why we need to be. He has one kid in his school who is trans, and that's all he knows. He doesn't even know what that means. He's like, I have a kid in school who's trans. I'm like, cool. Awesome. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay,
Who
cool.
cares?
Whatever.
Like, don't
Yeah,
make a big deal
exactly.
out of
Just
it.
love, just care
That's
about
right.
everybody, you know,
That's
just
right.
look at everybody the same, in their own uniqueness, and
That's right.
and let them find their way,
Mhm.
which is what they don't want to let, which is what they definitely, what the left definitely
But
doesn't
let me
want to
ask you this
happen right now.
question. But let me ask you this question, because I actually don't know the answer to it, and I'm digging, I dig in my brain, and I try to figure it out. I try to give myself a space to not be angry about it, and to just be more meditative around it, and to be more, well, there's something. Is there something I'm missing here? That is the reason why this is happening. And so I want to ask you the question, as a trans woman,
Mhm.
why are there these specific trans women out there that are so angry and so mean and so pushing against everyone for their trans rights? Do you have do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
Trans, I don't,
it's the
because
they call them the
yeah,
TRAs, right? There is very
yeah,
specific kind of trans woman that is very angry at the world, and very angry that they don't have their own space or something, or they're not women, or they're
yeah,
not considered women, or they're not looked at like women, and it's a very specific, I would say MO is one of those,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Very
the
angry.
TRAs are, I always consider the TRAs to be all the leftist trans activists, I guess. But
It's
the
weird to me.
specific, the trans women and the people that you're talking about seem to be the most misogynistic of them all.
I know. That's what blows
It's
my
like
mind.
it's almost like they didn't leave their maleness at the door when they transitioned.
Totally. It's bizarre behavior. I'm thinking, but you guys want to be accepted as women, which is great and awesome. Yet you're rolling over women like they're shit, and you're not going to get respected by other women when you
No,
act that way. So I'm not sure. I don't understand what their end goal is, because you're not going to get what you want acting that way. You're just
no,
not. Women are not going to
no.
open their doors for you at all. Men have
Because
opened their
whether,
doors to
yeah,
me. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had women open, I mean, the same with me. Like I said, they brought me into
that's right.
spaces. They brought me
That's right.
into womanhood, I guess you can say, you
That's
know.
right.
Whereas I I mean, whether it's talking trans issues or it's talking any other issue that the left has a thing for, you know, Black Lives Matter or anything,
Mhm.
is I've never respected somebody for them punching me in the face, right?
That's right. That's
Because
right.
they want me to do what they want me to do. Force has never worked to
Never.
make me do
Never.
something. And
That's right.
so all you do by trying to force this instead of trying to be just a good person,
Mhm.
and being an upstanding citizen,
That's right.
is the opposite of what you want it to do.
That's right.
And now people like me, you,
Mhm.
Blair White, and everybody else, we have to go out into public,
Mhm.
into right-wing spaces, to
That's right.
show that trans people are not this, because that's
That's
all they're
right.
showing on the media and everything like that.
That's right.
And I told, so Lauren Chen was on the channel a few weeks ago, and
Mhm.
I told her this exact same thing. I said, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there's a lot of people out there who have never met a trans person in their life.
That's
So
right.
all they're seeing is this.
That's
So
right.
if I can get onto a space that they, you know, see,
Mhm.
and you know, where they are actually at, like, I went on Slightly Offensive a few weeks ago to talk about Caitlyn Jenner and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And so
Mhm.
it's like those are right-wing spaces, and my goal going onto that channel was just to to show that trans people are not this craziness. So I didn't go,
That's
I was
right.
not, my rule going in there, I was not going to go in there and be combative, because as soon as I be combative, then I ruin I
That's right.
ruin
That's right.
what I want to show.
That's right. They won't
And
have a
so I want them
conversation
to
with
accept
you.
it.
And also, you look like a
Yeah.
wingnut when you start going, ah! The same with me. I
Yeah.
do a lot of conservative podcast shows for a
Mm-hmm.
reason, because I don't want them to think that we're all like that, because we're not. And so, yeah, I don't
And
get
yeah.
combative. They call me she. They're like, well, you're just, I'm like, that's okay. If you need to call me she and it makes you feel comfortable, I actually doesn't bother me. I'll be honest with you. It just doesn't. I'm so
Yeah.
confident in who I am and what I am. I go, look at me, dude. You can call me a she all you want, but people are going to think you're a little nuts. And then they laugh and we all
Yeah.
laugh, and it's, and then it breaks the ice. And then and then I'm just like, let's just get down to business here, dude. Let me
Yeah.
explain why I needed a transition. It would save my life. I wouldn't be this guy. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, what you see out there isn't representation of a lot of us. They just have a bigger voice. And so they're like, oh, I go, we don't all agree with those people. We don't want to take over your space. We don't want to just be men and women, because we're not. And so, you know, I think that's the job that we've been handed, because we're willing to do it, which says a lot about you, my friend.
And we have thick skin. We have thick skin, and we can take it.
And we can take it.
And God wouldn't put us into a position if we couldn't take it. So that's
you
why
are so
we
right.
are given this platform that we have to be able to do this.
That's right.
I believe that.
Me too.
And you're right. I mean, the whole pronoun debate and everything like that is just stupid. I don't appreciate being called he.
Of course
but
not.
People slip up but it's like and usually it's funny because I've never once corrected somebody in person. Everybody's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, it's cool. Like they either apologize to me, or they say it and then just move on. Then or they say it, correct themselves. Or it's always funny when somebody says it and then their friend or their boyfriend or girlfriend goes, it's she. I'm like, I've never once had to say, I've never once said anything in person. I just let it just rolls right off, right?
That's because people
make mistakes. I don't like people doing it maliciously.
Of course not.
Because I think it's a respect issue.
That's right.
But I'm not gonna scream and yell if you don't.
Because it's not that important. It just isn't. Then that's the reality. We're teaching these young kids to be so victimized that they're just going to puke up everything one day because someone calls them she or he, the wrong pronoun. And I feel it. I feel very not angry, but I feel sort of disrespected that they expect me to put my pronouns, because I'm like, look, bitch, I had a sex change to become a man. And if you can't tell I'm a man, then my sex change sucked. So I don't want to tell you that I'm a dude. And if you see me that way, fine. But I don't put my pronouns because first off, you can't force me to do anything. I'm not that guy. Secondly, I'm not going to play that game, because it's fine. If you need to put your pronouns, you do that, but I don't need to. So I'm not going to. And it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me. And that's the thing that's become so narcissistic in this community. It's like me, 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 me. And when you don't join me, 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 you're a bad person. And I'm like, in what world do you live in? Because guess what? Go into the real world and you're going to shit your pants, because the real world is going to come after you and eat you alive, my friend.
which is unfortunately not what we're seeing happen with this current generation.
Oh, you watch these kids. No. These kids live in a bubble. They live on their TikTok. We're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, so none of them go out of their house. They're literally living on oh no, I disagree with that. These kids are living on TikTok, Discord. What's the other one you just got kicked off? Reddit.
Oh, Reddit. Yeah.
It's a bubble. They live in a bubble, and it's why they can speak like that to each other. But the minute one of those little fucking kids gets out and has to go get a job somewhere far away or join the military or do that, they're going to get a rude awakening, because the rest of the world isn't going to bend over to your pronouns and isn't going to bend over to you calling everybody transphobic and a turf.
Because because they've always been given everything that they want, and their feelings have always been protected, and their feelings have always been valid since the day that they were born. That's why they are the way that they are. Like they feel like society should bend to their feelings and validate them. And with us, it's like, I don't get my validation from other people. That's right. My triggers are mine to deal with. Like if I have an issue with somebody misgendering me, I deal with that with my therapist. Okay. Right. I'm not going to go and scream and yell at you. And to your point, like I've actually gotten through to some people on the left as well. I have some liberal friends that I've talked to, and I'm like they're posting stuff on Instagram saying, this is why it's important to ask everybody their pronouns. And I actually messaged, I said, as a transsexual, that kind of gives us dysphoria. It's the opposite. Because if you ask me my pronouns, it means I've been clocked. And she's like, I never thought of it that way. And then she goes, I never thought about it that way. But do you think if we normalize just doing it for everybody and everybody did it all the time? And I just said, I just don't think that it's feasible to even ask everybody in the world to do it for 0.01% of the population. If you use different pronouns than what you're presenting as,
that's right.
You have a responsibility to give people your pronouns.
That's right.
You don't have a responsibility to ask for my pronouns. And if I'm not doing a good job of presenting, and that's what when I get misgendered, it means I'm just not passing well enough.
Yeah.
And it's usually my voice that gives me away, but
but whatever, who cares? I mean,
exactly.
same with me. I'm a little guy. I mean, I'm shorter than average guy, right? And like there's certain, I don't have an Adam's apple, and like I have a vagina, and like, you know, there's a lot of things that could misgender me easily. But you know, you walk the world. You have to figure out how to walk the world and make it work for you. That's what's missing in the younger generation. They're and it's actually so detrimental to their mental health. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. Like we have a generation, and right now, I mean, it's not even just in the community or anything like that. I mean, it is just a generational thing where we are seeing more people on antidepressants than we've ever seen before. There is this generational thing where it's just people that have been given trophies since they were born.
I know, it's bizarre behavior, and I don't understand. I'm a parent. My kid is not getting away with shit. Let me just tell you. I mean, he doesn't get away. I co-parent with him. So, you know, the biological dad was down the street. We're all great friends. It's so awesome. And so me and him are ball busters, and the mom is the easygoing one. So it's so funny. I'm just like, it's so traditional in some way, right? The dudes are all like, no, you go out and mow the lawn right now. And then the mom is all like, oh, it's too cold out. Don't go. I'm like, what? Put a jacket on.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny. I mean, I make jokes all the time about being trans and stuff like that.
Me too.
Sometimes I'll make a joke like, and the punchline is because I used to be a man, and that's the punchline.
Excellent.
And it might be a little misogynistic joke. I think one time the one joke before was I was asked if I could drive. And I'm like, of course I can drive. I used to be a man.
Oh my God.
She talked about physically driving, but I'm like, yeah, I can drive. I used to be a man. Of course I can.
Right on. You know, it's just too bad we can't make fun of ourselves anymore. I mean, I do it, you do it, but should. It's a shame because you know, I'm a public speaker, so I travel the world, you know, speaking to a lot of different kinds of people. And in my talks, I always sort of try to make fun a little bit because it breaks that ice and it makes people understand that they don't have to be so worried whether or not, you know, it might be funny that I'm a man with a vagina. It is funny. It's hilarious, but who cares?
The Dave Chappelle skit when he said, it's kind of hilarious. I'm like, it is kind of hilarious.
Kind of hilarious. I love that guy. He's hilarious. He's great. He's very, he too tried to get canceled. They came after him, but he's a badass. So
he's uncancelable. There's a few that are uncancelable like that.
That's right. Totally.
But that's what we have to be able to do. And I need to stop saying the T slur because I say it about myself all the time. And people are going to get in trouble thinking they can say it. Yeah.
You know,
I call myself an outspoken tranny all the time. And people look at me. I'm like, okay, you guys can't say that because you guys will be yelled at. But
no, I know. But that's the thing.
But just don't go.
That's our trans privilege. That's right. Well, you know, on some level, they normalized queer without asking gay men if it was okay. And there's a lot of gay men who hate that word. And so they just took it upon themselves to take it. And, you know, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't just do that and just be and think everyone's going to be okay with it. I understand tranny can be triggering to some people. I do, but I use it anyway.
I bet.
You know? Pronouns trigger me. I don't like pronouns, but does anyone give a shit that it triggers me? No. So, you know, that I'm the guy who plays those games to bring attention to the hypocrisy. You know, it's like, I get how tranny hurts, but you know what? Queer hurts too. And so do pronouns. So here, this is in your face. And when you start to have the conversation with me, you kids don't get all the rights. You kids don't get to have everything given to you without some pushback. And that's what I am. I'm the guy who's going to push back on these people who think that they can just have the right to say the things that they say to me, which is, oh, wow. I'm shocked at some of the things people say to me. I'm like, you think that's okay? What? That's transphobic in itself. The people who are calling transphobia and calling me these names, I'm like, you're being very transphobic right now. So
they don't see it that way.
No way.
It is. And I guess the way that I kind of deal with a lot of this stuff too is like, I always assume I don't pass. And then I'm always shocked when I do.
You do pass. You actually pass, just so you know. You totally are very passable.
Thank you.
And that's a dirty word. That's a dirty word in our community now too, passing. I'm like, bitch, that was the whole reason why I transitioned, to pass. So,
well, now you have passing privilege. Yeah.
You know how long it took for me to get, first off, I make an effort to do this. It wasn't naturally dusted, fairy dust on me. I actually worked to look at like this passing dude. So privilege, I don't know about that. And so, now it's a privilege to pass. No, it's work to pass.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it really is.
It's work.
It really is.
Yeah. And so whatever that, again, that's that thing where they're shaming other people in the community for their own choices. And they're the ones who are always saying anyone can be trans except for you, except for you're the wrong kind of trans.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we go into all this stuff and they're worried about the wrong stuff. I mean, they're more worried about you calling Chris Chan she than pointing out the fact that he raped his mother.
I know. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's what the detriment is of the community.
Well, that's the culty behavior. And that is culty behavior. I dated a woman who was actually raised in a cult. So I know a little bit about cults. And there's a little of that. There's a little of that, coming out there. There's certain aspects of it that are just so, there's no logic to a lot of the things they're doing. And to me, they're feeding the young kids, which I call the minions. They're feeding them all this language, and also they can do the fighting. And because they you know what I mean? It's smart. So they built up this huge community, and all these pussy ass trans dudes who can't stand up for themselves and like just come after me because I wrote this letter against a trans woman. Yeah. I'm like, read the letter, dude. And don't you dare come after me that I'm transphobic and that I'm trans misogynist. It's like ridiculous behavior. Those trans women won't have a conversation with me. They will not. They only talk shit about me. And so, I can't have a conversation with somebody who won't have a conversation. So I'm not going to sit here and just pretend like everything is okay when it's not, because it's not okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
But that's kind of coming down to I think we're way over an hour now.
We are. We totally are. I knew that was going to happen.
I mean, I love to talk. So, I mean, it's absolutely
so do I.
fine. I think we still got a bunch of people, but,
okay,
where
cool.
can everybody find you at?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter, but watch yourself. Buck Angel on Twitter, Instagram, Buck Angel, which is also like, I am on TikTok, but that feels so young. And I'm not sure if it takes a lot of energy there. And I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, but I'm on there too. But I'm very accessible. I mostly spend my time on either Instagram or Twitter, but I'm very accessible to anyone who wants to talk to me or have a question or, even debate me. I'm totally open to any of that. So I really appreciate you a lot, Sara. Your voice and who you are out there means a lot to me, because I got scared for a while that we lost everyone and people didn't have the same thing that I was thinking about, but you're all coming out, and it's just
we're coming
beautiful.
back.
That's
slowly and surely. Like I said, there's only a few of us right now. I think probably two on each gender. Me, you, Blair, and Mars in the US, and then we have some globally, but
yeah, it's coming though. It's happening. It really is. And the GD Alliance is really building up. So also, if anyone has any questions about that, I think we're really, going to build something beautiful there and caring. So I really appreciate you being so caring and really wanting to create a beautiful, caring community. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for always doing what you're doing and what you've been doing forever, and being the pillar of our society.
Well, because I care about you and I care about everybody. And I also have such an amazing life. If it wasn't for my transition, I wouldn't have this life. And I care. I so appreciate transitioning beyond anything that I want everyone else to have what I have. So when I see it derailed, I'm like, that's scary.
Yep.
From my friend. Have a
just
good
gotta
evening.
Everybody's just the point of life is just to be happy.
That's right.
You have right to pursue happiness.
That's right.
You don't have the right to be happy.
That's right.
Nobody else to do anything that they don't want to do. So
that's right.
But everybody else in the chat and that's watching the video, make sure you click subscribe to this channel. You can also now, every single interview I've done, just search Transform to Freedom on anywhere that podcasts are sold. And I will be back soon. Thank you.